Hello, everybody. Welcome to Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs.
And I'm David Woldingen.
And hey, second half of the season is here, so it's time for Mizzou to finally take a road trip. This week they are headed down to Auburn to take on the other Tigers. Before we talk about that, please, guys, like this video, leave us some thoughts on what you think is going to happen in this one. Subscribe to the YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Spotify. David, hey, second time down there for you this weekend. Initial thoughts on this one?
Yeah, going back to the Plains and Jordan Hare Stadium. Night game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I had a blast last time I was down there. I guess my biggest takeaway is strange things happen at that stadium. So, I mean, I don't know what to say other than who knows what to expect. It's the first road game of the season for Mizzou. Uh, Traditionally under Drink, they haven't not been great on the road. I know he tried to do some things in camp this year for preparation purposes, knowing the first road game was going to be 6 games out. So we'll see if that works or not, quite honestly. And it's going to be interesting to see how this team responds after that loss last week.
Yeah, for those who aren't really following, during fall camp, Mizzou took a trip to Lindenwood in St. Charles, and they simulated the whole process of traveling for a road game. So, in theory, it's not their first trip. That was the whole point behind it was so that was so far into the season when you first do it for real, like Missouri's doing here. Yeah, both teams coming off a loss, close losses, and I don't know. It's one where teams might react very similarly or very opposite directions. For Missouri, there's a little bit of urgency because they got hit in the mouth, but speaking strictly in theoreticals, you win out, you control your destiny to the playoff. You win out, you're in. So they have that going for them. One loss and their margin for error is gone. So there is that increased sense of urgency, I think. For Auburn, well, they're on the edge. This could be the game where they kind of pull 180 and turn this into a nice season, or this could be a game where that finally pushes the Hugh Freeze era off a cliff.
Yeah, and with the way college football coaching carousel stuff is going, I could easily see it blowing up down there, especially if Mizzou wins pretty handily, although I don't think that will happen. However, there is a lot of unrest already as they lost one of their captains who got dismissed from the team, Damari Alston, a running
And Murray
back.
Alston,
Yeah.
ah, it's a weird one, David. He a captain of the team, the second running back, not used a ton, but he was the second running back. Um, had I think one touchdown so far this year and like 32 carries or something. Um, it's interesting because Hugh Freeze in the press conference this week cited Alston's failure to live up to the expectations and standards or whatever of the program for him leaving the team. But you saw social media posts from Auburn players talk about how we voted you captain for a reason and nothing but love and sad to see you go. You don't see that for a lot of dudes kicked off a team for a legit violation of whatever rule. So there, I don't know. There might be nothing, but there's enough mystery that it just adds to the drama. The frustration down there is largely due to the fact Auburn has lost 3 games in a row, and they're all against good teams. At Oklahoma, at A&M, home against Georgia. They've lost those 3 games by a combined total of 23 points. They've been close in every one of them. I think last week's 20-10 loss was the worst of the three. Uh, so they're not far off, but I think it's the way they arrive at those close losses, David. Penalties, turnovers, just inept offense.
Well, and if you key in on that Georgia game, they were in control of that game early on, and then just kind of collapsed. Couldn't maintain it throughout the whole four quarters, if you will. And Georgia made their adjustments and came roaring back in the second half. So the talent is there. They just haven't put a full game together, kind of like Mizzou, quite honestly.
Had control of so much of that game, and it just unraveled after that complete debacle of a replay and that goal line situation. I don't know if you watched that game. I'm sure you saw talk about it, but was it Jackson Arnold on a QB sneak right at the goal line and the ball got punched out, but it was clear he'd already broken the plane, but the referees disagreed somehow and gave Georgia the ball at like the 1 inch line. Um,
Well,
that
and then
whole
the whole
scenario just they got it wrong. It cost Auburn a touchdown and it changed the entire game.
I would also argue that whole timeout situation did too.
Oh gosh.
There's a lot going on down there. Like I said, weird things happen at that stadium.
Uh, you know, I clap like this, don't you?
I know, right?
Um, yeah. Th- This game, I feel like so much of it is about Auburn, and that's kind of why we've been talking more Auburn than Missouri so far. How are they going to react? I've seen people talk about how they're going to come out, guns blazing, desperate, nothing to lose, whatever. And there are those who think that they're going to come out flat. They've given up, they're mailing it in. Now, I don't know about you, David. I personally think both can be true. I think they're going to come out desperate and fired up, Auburn will. But I also think that if Missouri comes out quick and if they're able to get up by 2 touchdowns in the first half, they might fold,
Yeah,
especially if there's penalties and a turnover or two involved.
that both can be 100% true. They can come out angry, play hard, but if they get overtaken early, I like you said, any bit of adversity might cause them to collapse just because they're on that teetering
Here we go
edge.
again.
Yep, if you will. Um, Kind of like what Mizzou used to be. Now it's just they're tough as nails. They've proven that a couple of times in comebacks this year, and all the one score games they've won in the past couple of years too. They've proven that they can handle whatever's thrown at them, and they'll still find a way to get it done. I guess that's going to Auburn now. Can they do the same thing, especially with everything going on over the last couple of weeks? How is it going to be mentally? How challenging is it going to be to stay focused, especially when one of your captains was dismissed or leave left or whatever, and then the whole issue with the refs and there's just a lot going on Auburn's side, and
Yeah, that
I kind of feel for him honestly.
it, it I like the saying that learning to win it's a skill. It is a skill that right now Auburn as a program under Hugh Freeze has not learned. It's something that Mizzou learned starting in 2023 when Mevis walked it off with the 61-yard field goal. That kind of kick-started this program in terms of, hey, we can win this type of game. And honestly, once you do it once, you see it happen, that changes so much. So if they can get that one win, perhaps Saturday against Missouri, it it could change the trajectory of the program. At the same time, they until they do it, you almost can't expect it. And also, unfortunately for Auburn, you look at the makeup of the Missouri team, you feel more comfortable with the defensive side of the ball overall. And well, the old saying may apply here, defense travels.
Yeah, and I will say one other thing, and this is based off the game a couple of years ago down there. Our running backs are going to make sure to hold the ball all the way across the line.
Oh gosh. Well, that's something that there's going to be a handful of players who are still on the roster from 2022. Dalen Carnell and Connor Tollison are the two that come to mind, who would have made that trip, watched Mevis miss the chip shot as the fourth quarter ended that should have won it, and will remember Nate Pete stretching the ball out when he already had first and goal at the one if he just goes out of bounds. In the overtime, Pete, you'll remember, stretched the ball out trying for a touchdown when he already had a first down and fumbled it. Auburn recovered it in the end zone ball game. So for some of these guys on Missouri's roster, it is a revenge trip. Um, Not a revenge game. Missouri won last year, the Brady Cook Hospital game, but there may be a small bit of extra motivation there because of that trip and just how crazy it was to lose. Again, like we say, that was before that Mevis walk-off we talked about. That was when Missouri had not learned to win a close game yet. Exact thing Auburn's going through right now. That's the goofy type of stuff that is happening to them.
Well, and I think Drink is going to press the narrative this week of turning this whole road game mantra of Mizzou doesn't play well on the road around. Um, he's going to look for something for the team to focus on, not only bounce back from last week and say, "Hey, it's still all right in front of you," but we're going on the road. We need to start out strong because this is not going to be our only road game. You turn around and go on the road to Vanderbilt, which is going to be no picnic with the talent they have there too. That let's knock this whole idea that we don't play well on the road out and show everybody this game that hey, we can win on the road. So I think that's going to be happening too on the Mizzou side, and I think they're going to be coming down with a plan and a mission. Quite honestly.
And I think that narrative is a little bit overblown. Let's look at Missouri on the road. There have been losses and there have been bad losses. A&M, that's the one where it's just baffling. We were there. They got smacked in the mouth and never recovered in the first quarter. Alabama, I can't even get mad. Brady Cook could barely walk, and Drew Pine was just not ready. Fine.
South
Then,
Carolina.
yeah,
South
South
Carolina.
Carolina. They led that game against South. What's Carolina go 9-3 last year, and they were a redshirt freshman trying to cover a receiver away from sealing the deal. They led with a minute to go. Going back to 2023, they lost at Georgia. Okay. Pretty much everybody who's not Bama has lost at Georgia the last 5, 6 years. So, and it was a good game. So I'm not that concerned. I mean, always hard to win on the road on the SEC in the SEC. I don't think there's that much to Missouri being bad on the road specific to this program, this team, all that. Uh,
But it is still a mantra that they can't win on the road, and they have to break through that.
yeah, I think it's one where I think they're the better team. Betting market certainly thinks that. Auburn opened as what, a 3-point favorite, and Missouri is a 2-point favorite now, which is wild that
By the
quickly for it to turn.
by the way, how good is Vegas? I mean, they got that game last week right on the money.
Yep.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I know they do it for a living, but they knew something a lot of us didn't because I thought it was going to be a way different game than it was. But nope, they got it right. Good for them.
Um, yeah, this offense, I'm really curious to see what happens with Missouri. Bo Pribula had, I think it's safe to say, his worst game in a Tiger uniform. And a lot of his passes, it was a consistent problem of him kind of throwing high. So I don't know if he just worked himself into a bad habit of an early release point, not following through. I have no idea. I wonder if that's something that is easily fixable that they notice as soon as they look at film and see him out there on the practice field, or was the step up in competition just kind of almost giving him the yips? Um,
I have a couple thoughts on that.
yeah,
He started panicking in the pocket quite a lot
yeah,
against Alabama. And when you start panicking, your footwork is probably the first thing that might go. Especially for a guy who likes to take off and run like he was doing. So I have a feeling if you rewatch some of that, his feet weren't set a lot of times. And usually when your feet aren't set, you overcompensate with your arm, and that's when things start to go high. My other comment is the other thing I noticed because I sit in the end zone. He had a lot of wide open guys that he normally takes, kind of like Brady Cook used to do, those wide open short 4 or 5 yard pass gains, the checkdowns, if you will, that he passed for whatever reason, and that's not something he did in the earlier games. So I don't know if he was pressing to go downfield or what, but my hope is that he looks at that film and says, "I could have hit this guy here, this guy here." I mean, the last play of the game is a perfect example. He tried to make a great pass across the left side, which was there. But if he would have checked down to Marquise Johnson, nobody within 30 yards of him. And he probably, with his speed, would have been able to find a way to get close to the end zone. So I think he's going to look at film and realize, hey, I need to make sure I hit the open guy and I need to make sure I'm going through my progressions because I think that's when he started panicking back there. I think that's something he lost. And some of that might have just been the pressure of the game, too, getting to him.
yeah. I think having been through that, I think that's going to help him against Auburn, who, for all their offensive struggles, the reason they're in these games is because of the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like the step down in competition from Alabama to Auburn is a big one. I think it is a very small step down. So it's certainly going to be a challenge. Maybe not quite as difficult. I mean, Alabama's secondary is probably a little bit better, but then this one's on the road as well. So that could, I don't know, that's another factor.
Well, and
Um,
I also think Missouri gets back to the run a little more.
yeah.
I mean, only giving the ball to Ahmad Hardy 12 times is a crime, in my opinion. But
Well,
uh,
some of that, a lot of that has to do with the fact that Missouri, instead of running 80 plays, ran, I think it was 56. They simply didn't have the ball nearly as many plays as they normally do. And that goes into a huge factor in why Missouri struggled against Alabama.
and then
They
you
were
have the
awful in
then you
third down conversion
then you
and
have.
fourth downs.
But I want to correct you on that. You had 3 series in the third and fourth quarter where it's just pass, 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 pass,
There
pass.
was, yeah, well,
That they never
there was one about 8 minutes left where, yeah, that was terrible.
they never even attempted to run the ball. So while I agree with you and get what you're saying, time of possession and all that, they still abandoned the run too quickly, especially late in that game. And I think they're going to look at that and realize they made a mistake. And I think you're going to see them go back to their run style offense. The other thing that kind of caught me a little bit is they ran a lot to the short side of the field. And when you're doing those outside zones, you want to give your running back as much room as possible because when you stretch the field, that's where the holes start opening up. So I just thought that was an interesting point, too, that hopefully the coaches notice on film.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with a zone type scheme, you should run on the wide side of the field because you have no idea exactly where the holes are going to open up. And if nothing else, running that way creates more room for a cutback.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Missouri was closer. Um, I don't think it was as big of a glaring screw up on Kirby Moore's part, but I'll go back to what I said in the Alabama preview. I don't know why Missouri would ever, game circumstances notwithstanding, I don't know why Missouri would ever throw on first down. I feel like you're guaranteed at least 2 yards almost every time, probably more.
Well, and if you are throwing on first down, it better be a play action.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I think Missouri's offense is really going to be focused and motivated to do better than last time. I think they're really disappointed, I bet.
Now,
Now, on to
Missouri.
predictions, David.
Well, I was going to say we haven't
Oh,
even
go
really
ahead.
talked. We haven't really talked about the Missouri defense going against Jackson Arnold.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Arnold's,
Yeah, heck, I'm missing that part. Yeah, altogether. Yeah. You
yeah.
know, they played him last year at Oklahoma, and so they got an idea. They talked about in the press conference how it's different, just scheme wise and everything. So they have an idea, but it's a little bit different just because of the offense that he's running. And look, Jackson Arnold, the book is out to some extent, right? He is athletic, he can run. If you make him sit in the pocket and beat you with his arm, you take your chances.
Well, Mizzou has some good practice because they've faced two really good running style quarterbacks, and they've done a great job forcing them to stay home and try beat you with the arm. So it's going to be interesting again to see this style because I bet Mizzou goes back to that same defense again that you saw against South Carolina and Kansas, just because it's the same type of quarterback and the same type of offense you're kind of going up against again. So, as you said, you're going to play contain. Defensive ends aren't going to get too high up the field because you don't want to open the running lanes. And then you're just going to force him to try beat you with his arm.
And, I'm really interested to see what happens with the secondary. The Alabama wide receiver duo of Ryan Williams and Jeremy Bernard had nothing to do with Missouri losing. It was Jeremy Bernard had 3 catches for 20 yards. Ryan Williams did not touch the football. Now, Williams, there's rumors that he's not 100% healthy. Either way, he's out there. So he's healthy enough to run routes. He didn't touch the ball. Uh, Ty Simpson had an even 200 yards after the numbers he's been putting up the 4 weeks previous. Take that all day.
Well, I was
There
going to
were
say,
no gigantic plays. There were no home run balls.
I thought the secondary played really well. And the few times they did get beat, like that fourth and whatever, um, Ty just made phenomenal ball placement throws that
Well,
an
that fourth and
NFL.
eight ball
Yeah.
late in the
Yeah.
game. Oh,
Nobody's going to stop that because it's an NFL throw. Like it was
I don't know what more Toriano Pride could have done. He was all over him.
so Mizzou really did step it up with their secondary. I'm curious to see how much of that was Marvin Burks getting taken out early in the game due to that targeting hit
Yeah,
because he was one of the key offenders of uh getting sucked
charging
up
in
on
on a play
yeah
action, biting.
getting sucked up on a run and having them throw over top of him. And that kind of changed the complexion of the secondary too when he left the game. So it's going to be really interesting to see how Mizzou plays it again. But like I said, I think they're going to be focused on um, keeping Jackson in the pocket and forcing him to throw over top. Because I mean, that's just how you're going to force the Auburn Tigers to beat you. Really, is not with their legs, but over the top.
Yeah, and I wonder the way Santana Banner played after Marvin Burks was ejected. I imagine Burks is still your starter, but especially after going and watching film, seeing Banner in action, wouldn't surprise me if Burks's leash is a lot shorter. I'm really curious to see that. But yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you. If this game comes down to Jackson Arnold's arm, if the secondary plays like they played against Bama, they're liable to pick him off a couple of times. Now, at the same time, Jackson Arnold has not thrown an interception. So the challenge is there, get the first. Um, it's a weird one. Auburn has two electric receivers, and yet they don't have a 100-yard receiving game out of anybody yet. I have one guy reach 80 yards in a game so far this season. And I don't know. You see him and you totally get it, but on paper, it still kind of blows your mind.
All I know
Now,
is weird things happen down in Auburn.
yes. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Now on to predictions. And hey, as you said, you know what? We both picked Bama to cover last week. They hit the number on the head, so we both got a push. So we are both 3, 2, and 1 against the spread now. Ended our losing streak, technically. And, well,
Yay.
we are both undefeated straight up, which, well, we both picked Missouri to lose last week, so I don't know how exciting that is.
Yay.
This thrilling. This is a game where Missouri can absolutely lose. They opened up as an underdog. I think part of the reason the line has moved is because everyone's down on Auburn. I think that's part of the reason Missouri's now favored. Uh, it's almost a pick. I mean, 2 points. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be low scoring. The over under is like 43. So right now it's like picking Mizzou 23 to 21 or something like that, which is pretty much what I'm going with. I'm going with Missouri Tigers to get the win. Hard fought, struggle, ugly game, 24 to 20.
Yeah, and while I want to agree with you, I just don't think Mizzou's going to allow their field goal kicking game to get into it on the road with a freshman kicker. Um, I have Mizzou winning 21-17. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. And quite honestly, I think back to 2 years ago, it could be something like that where it's 14-13 going into second overtime or whatever it was. just because I mean, I the defenses are really good. I'm especially Auburn's defense. I think it's just going to come down to who can make one more offensive play in this game. Uh, and I think both defenses, as you said, defense travels earlier. Uh, it's just going to be a backyard brawl battle, if you will. And it's going to come down to who wants it more. Both teams coming off tough losses. Who's going to grab it? And I think Mizzou's going to come out ahead just because they've been in this situation before in the last couple of years, and they know how to rebound. It's going to be really interesting, though. I'm looking forward to it. As you said, I will be down there. So, yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a game where it's an opportunity for Damon Wilson, Zion Young, and company to tee off. It's on the ticker. I don't know if we talked about it, but Jackson Arnold's been sacked 20 times. That's most of any P4 quarterback. Uh, Missouri's going to have their opportunities to feast defensively, so we'll see what happens.
Yep, looking for a fun one. Night game. Get to see the War Eagle flying around. It's SEC football, baby.
Hey, I don't know if you mentioned it. Weird things happen at Jordan Hare.
Oh yeah, with Halloween coming up too.
Oh
So
gosh, is it a full moon too?
hopefully not. But anyway, we'll keep you guys updated with all things Mizzou. So as always, thank you for watching.